is acre. But my conversations with her is that she spent all she is going to spend, obviously on your race, and she's raising money to do constituent work after the election. And there's no really indication at this point, which is obviously just before the election, that they're going to continue raising money for you. So, I mean, that's my inference from this. So that's why I was asking, they talked to you before the election. This message would indicate that they may have discussed it, but wasn't really going to be followed up. And then all of a sudden on the weekend of the 13th, there's these messages about now we have money for you.
That was the first time I talked to them since.
Representative Bakery, I will try to clean up the record here a little bit. So please, Representative Bakery.
I had two other phone calls, both members of that association, two doctors who had made comments. One that that they knew that I was in position to, since I was going to sit on the health committee and was in position to become chair of that committee, that they were supporting David Ballmer and would like my support for him as well. And then I had another check from another call from another chiropractor who said he had a check for me, and again it indicated he was supporting David Ballmer.
And then Senator Cabinet.
All on that weekend, the 13th.
The same evening. That morning, I'd been at the Capitol. I'd talked with Representative Ballmer in the hall. By 4 o'clock, at least 3 messages were left on my phone. I grabbed my messages and then went over to the GOP Republican Christmas party Monday evening over at Heather Gardens. And I was sitting in the car at that time on the phone with Representative Bradford, just trying to figure out where do I go with these messages. I didn't know how to respond.
Senator Cabinet.
Thank you. So until that weekend, between that December weekend and this October message on the 28th, you had no expectation that the organization was either through their 527 or through their members trying to continue to provide campaign support?
Correct.
Okay.
So you had a phone message on Monday night from Mr. Groves saying that he was sorry that they hadn't gotten caught up with you to raise money during your election, but now they've had money for you. And he specifically told you that he wanted to talk about the leadership election, yes, and that he and or the organization he was supporting or representing, supported David Ballmer for, yes, in the leadership election.
Yes.
And supported David Ballmer specifically for minority leader?
That's what he was running for, but that's.
But he didn't say that. He just said in the leadership elections.
He just said we're supporting David Ballmer.
Okay, so he didn't.
Prior to that, he said he wanted to talk about the leadership elections, but.
Okay. So then back to the time when he showed up in your office. Tell us exactly what was happening and tell us when that was, to the best of your recollection, and then tell us again how he showed up, what you were up to, why you were there. Give us some context and background.
Well, I'd been coming in every day unloading things into my office, just trying to get set up for session. I had, that particular morning, had come in to speak with Representative May, who had the speaker in his office. As I was driving in, we had talked on the phone. I don't know which speaker it was, but at that time. When I left Representative May's office, I had typed up a statement. At that time, it had not been discussed that a complaint would be filed. I went straight up to my office, walked in, was trying to move a filing cabinet. Mr. Groves walked in the door. We entered into a very normal, friendly conversation, talking about church, and we all went to the same church and talked about different things, and he helped me move filing cabinet, and it wasn't until he stood across the desk and then said he wanted to talk to me about the leadership elections that I was a little surprised and realized I didn't know who I was talking to.
When was this? What was the date?
This was Tuesday.
So the 16th.
No, it was Tuesday morning, the 16th morning.
Do you remember what time?
I don't. I left Representative May's office probably around 9:30, so it had been around 10ish or sometime there after, between 10 and noon. I was very busy and not paying attention to the time.
Okay. So again, tell me, as very best you recall, what he said.
He said he wanted to talk about the leadership elections, and they had these checks for me. I told him I couldn't do fundraising at the Capitol, and he said he tried to leave messages for me. I hadn't returned his calls. Could we meet somewhere off-site before Friday? And I told him I couldn't talk about the leadership elections again, and he just said that they were supporting Representative May, and at that point I asked him for his, Representative Balmer, I asked him for his business card so I could get a feel for who I was talking to here. I told him it just wasn't appropriate for us to be talking about this. He did tell me he worked for a law firm and that it was okay for us to talk, and that they'd given me money through the chiropractors, and that gave him the right to ask me about the leadership election.
Did you ever get those checks?
No,
So to this day,
no.
in some of the documentation that we have, there was a lunch being set up for, I think, like the 23rd of December. Do you-
That wasn't with me.
You had nothing to do with
I
that
had,
lunch?
no, I don't know anything about that.
Questions from Representative Kerr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Creek. You just said that Mr. Groves said he had the right to talk about, and was that the word
Yes.
used? If you
Yes.
remember,
I do remember because I was very upset with that comment.
the right to talk about leadership.
Mr. Kaufman,
If I could,
just
could I-
come to the table, identify yourself for the record, and then you can dialogue with us, and we'll figure out whether to dialogue back.
right, I understand the procedure, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to follow up with the committee's permission. I would propound the question to the committee, and then if you want to ask it. Senator Cadman mentioned an email on October 28th and concerning fundraising. There's another